I got a call from my husband, Elliot, at midnight while I was on a work trip in another country. He said, "Hey, I want a divorce." I froze and said, "What?" I kind of expected this day might come, but I didn't think he'd say it while I was away. I asked him, "What do you mean, can you explain?" He just laughed like it was funny. Then he said, "You probably didn't notice, but I've been seeing someone else. She's younger and prettier than you, and we have a kid together." I didn't say anything. Elliot kept talking, "So I need you to divorce me so I can be with her and our child." Then he added, "I already sold the house and the car." He stared at me, waiting for me to react. I just said, "Okay." "Huh?" he whispered, sounding surprised. Maybe he thought I'd cry or get angry, but I had already prepared myself for something like this, so it didn't shake me. A few days later, when I flew back home, Elliot was at the airport, looking panicked. I'm Naomi, a 34-year-old stay-at-home mom. I grew up in a normal middle-class family. I started learning French as a kid because I loved it. In middle school, I was good at English and even got to stay with a host family in France in high school. I dreamed of working for an international company, so I studied business at a top university. While in college, I went to France again and worked hard toward my goal. Job hunting was tough, and I didn't get into my first choice company, but I got an offer from my second choice, which was also a big global company. My family was proud, and my sister told me, "I knew you could do it, take care of yourself and do your best." I was thankful to have such a supportive family. Once I started working, the job was harder than I expected. The company treated its workers well but expected a lot. I was in my early 20s and often stayed late at the office. Luckily, I had great bosses and co-workers who supported me. I finally felt like I found my dream job. Over time, people noticed my efforts, and I was given more important tasks. Friends would say, "You're going to be a top businesswoman," or "You're amazing and strong," but deep down, I liked cute things. I collected character merch and slept with stuffed animals. I didn't get a pet because of my busy schedule, but I spent my free days at cat cafes. At work, I always acted tough, but I often felt tired and needed comfort. When I reached my late 20s, many of my friends started getting married and having kids. At every wedding, people would say, "You should think about getting married too," but I always said, "I'm too busy with work." I didn't want to date anyone at work or in my business circles, and I didn't have chances to meet new people. I wondered if I'd stay single forever, but back then, I was okay with that. I actually enjoyed focusing on work. One day, I went to another friend's wedding. Like always, I clapped and smiled for the couple, but I started feeling a bit uneasy. I was over 30, and if I wanted to get married, I needed to start thinking about it seriously. At the after-party, I sat alone at the bar, sipping a drink. As I watched the happy couple and guests, someone suddenly said to me, "Hey, are you alone? Can I sit here?" I was surprised because his voice was really nice, kind and gentle. "Sure," I replied. Like I said, I glanced at the guy who sat next to me. He was about my height, and I'm pretty tall for a woman. He looked a bit younger. His face was nothing special, but in a nice way. He didn't really look like how his voice sounded. "So, are you here for the wedding?" he asked. I said, "Yeah, I'm a friend of the bride, and I went to high school with the groom. Want to grab a drink?" He smiled and nodded, and we started talking over drinks. "Wow, you work at that big international company? That's amazing. I've heard of it. I work at a small company, so it feels like we're from two different worlds." His name was Elliot, and he was really easy to talk to. Before we left, we exchanged contact info. After that, we started hanging out on our own. Elliot was 2 years younger than me and worked in sales at a small company. He was laid back and kind. He listened well and always knew what to say to make me feel better. I really liked talking to him. After a few dates, he opened up more, and I found myself falling for him. He didn't make much money, less than a third of what I made, but I didn't care. The more we dated, the cuter he seemed to me. If I had seen him as super cool or reliable, I might have been disappointed later, but since I just saw him as cute, I could let the small stuff slide. He was sweet and always gave it his best. When he said things like, "I want to eat your cooking," I loved it. After about a year and a half, Elliot gave me a ring and said, "I love how chill you are, and sometimes you're really cute, too. Will you marry me?" I was surprised but happy. I said, "Thanks, Elliot, let's take care of each other as husband and wife." Elliot was so happy he jumped for joy, and I smiled too. We told our families. His parents were kind and easygoing and gave us their blessing. My family was supportive, and my sister told Elliot to take good care of me. She whispered to me, "He seems like your type, especially since you love cute things, but don't spoil him too much, okay?" I laughed and said, "I know." That's how our married life began. I bought a condo when we got married. It was a big step, but I thought it would be good for our future, especially if we had kids. I really thought we were starting a happy life together. But reality hit me fast. Elliot didn't help with any of the housework. He had lived with his parents until we got married, so he was used to his mom doing everything. I decided to talk to him. "Elliot, we're married now, let's split the chores. If you don't know how, I'll teach you." But Elliot frowned. "What, now that we're married, shouldn't you be doing the housework?" I said firmly, "No, I have a tough job. You should at least help with the basics. Come on, I'll show you how to use the washing machine." I tried to teach him, but he didn't take it seriously. He did a little cleaning and laundry, but only halfway. I always had to redo it. He couldn't cook at all, so I ended up making all the meals. I didn't want to discourage him, so I praised him even for trying. I just wanted to keep him motivated. But Elliot started getting lazier and relied on me even more. I finally said, "Elliot, I can't do everything. You need to stop depending on me and start helping out. I'm busy with work and travel. You need to step up." He frowned again. "What's with you? You've changed since we got married. You complain a lot. You make good money, so if you don't want to do housework, why not hire someone?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Even though I earned more than most people, I still had to be smart with money. But no matter how many times I talked to him, he didn't change. About a year after we got married, I came home and saw Elliot looking pale. "Elliot, what's wrong? You don't look good." He told me his company was going under, and he'd lose his job next month. "Do you have any plans for what to do next?" I asked. "I'll think about it later. I'm just really tired right now." I didn't push him. I figured he could take some time to recover, but after his company shut down, he didn't look for another job. He just stayed home all day playing video games. Even when I came home late, the house was a mess, and he was still gaming. This went on for months, and I got really frustrated. "Elliot, haven't you rested enough? Isn't it time to find a new job?" But he said, "I want to take my time. My last job used me. I want something that makes me feel good next time." I wanted to say, "You've got to be kidding," but I couldn't force him to work. I kept supporting him, even after his unemployment money stopped. One day, while he was deep into his games, I joked, "If you love gaming that much, why not try streaming? You might even make a little money." His eyes lit up. "Got it, I knew it, you're smart, Naomi. I think I'll try streaming. I have a good feeling about it." I thought it was good that Elliot, who had been lazy before, finally wanted to do something. "So, can you get me a PC and some streaming gear?" I was surprised, but Elliot acted like it was no big deal. "I don't have any savings, but I'm serious, please help me." I didn't want to spend money on this, but I bought what he needed. Even though he said he wanted to be a streamer, I thought he would start working for real soon, but after a few months, something crazy happened. Elliot became popular as a game streamer and started getting lots of fans. People online said nice things about his voice and laughed at how bad he was at games. He had fans of all kinds. He kept his face hidden and never said he was married. Look at me, when I try, I can succeed. Finally, people see my value. Elliot was very proud, but he never thanked me for buying the gear or helping him before he became popular. "Elliot, I'm happy for you, but can you help pay the bills now?" Since his unemployment benefits ended, he hadn't helped with money. I thought he should share the bills now that he made money. So I asked. No way, you earn enough, so I don't need to share my money with you, let's keep our money separate. I was shocked. Elliot kept all his streaming money for himself. He had completely lost the sweet side he had when we dated and was relying on me. Around this time, I bought a nice car with a loan. I used it only on weekends and took good care of it. One day, Elliot said, "Let me drive your car too." I asked, "But you only stream from home, why do you need a car?" He said, "We're married, so it's okay." I gave him the keys. After that, he started going out during the week when I was away. His streaming was getting huge, and he had lots of followers. His life got fancier, he wore designer clothes. I was sad about how much Elliot had changed, but I thought we were still married, so I kept things going for a few more years. By our 4th year of marriage, I had important work roles and traveled a lot for business. Sometimes I was gone for days or even weeks. When I returned, our home was a mess. Elliot stayed locked in his room, watching shows all day. He still depended on me for everything. We hardly talked, and I started asking myself why I was still married. I began gathering proof to get a divorce and made plans. I had a 2-week work trip coming up. I told Elliot, "I'm leaving tomorrow, see you later." He didn't even look up from his phone. I got on the plane and worked during my trip. On the 10th night, Elliot called me. "Hey, Elliot, it's midnight here," I said, half asleep. Then he shocked me. "Naomi, I want a divorce." I was stunned. I knew this might happen, but never thought he'd say it while I was on a trip. "What do you mean, explain?" He laughed. "You might not have noticed, but I have a girlfriend. She's younger and prettier than you, and we have a child." I stayed quiet. He kept talking. "So, get a divorce so I can be with my girlfriend and our kid. I already sold the house and the car." I replied quickly. "Okay." "Huh?" he whispered, surprised. Did he really think I'd cry or get upset? That was silly. I was ready. "So you want a divorce? Fine, there's a signed divorce paper in the living room drawer, file it." He said, "So you were ready, smart." I said, "Okay, see you, enjoy your lonely life." I tried not to laugh. "Yeah, whatever, I'm going back to sleep." I hung up and blocked his calls, then I called my sister for help and slept deeply until morning. The next day, I worked hard until it was time to go home. The business class seat was comfortable, and I fell asleep again. I had a good sleep. I didn't expect to have jet lag, so I planned to jump right back into my usual routine. When I woke up feeling refreshed from the flight, I stretched and got off the plane. After grabbing my bags and walking into the airport lobby, someone suddenly ran up to me, yelling, "Hey, Naomi." It was Elliot. He looked totally panicked. "Oh, what are you doing here? I didn't ask for a ride," I said. Elliot started freaking out. "What have you done? The car, the house, because of you." I took a step back, confused by his strange behavior. "I don't get what you mean. Can I leave now? I'm exhausted." As I tried to walk past him while yawning, Elliot blocked my way. "Wait, just hear me out," he yelled, so I stopped. "Here's the deal, first, I filed for divorce, then," I nodded without really paying attention, messing with my phone. "Are you even listening?" When I got home to talk to the realtor about selling the house, I found a lock on the door. I couldn't get in. "So I tried going to the other place," Elliot went on, "but there was a wheel lock on the car. I couldn't drive it. I called you, but you didn't answer. You blocked me." I sighed. "Yeah, I blocked your calls, so what?" Elliot started stomping his feet like a child. "Did you put a lock on the house and wheel locks on the car? How'd you do that while you were abroad?" I answered casually, "I asked my sister to take care of it." Elliot looked shocked. "Your sister?" "Yeah, you said you sold the house and car, right? But when my sister checked, everything was still there." "Sounds like you were bluffing, just getting price estimates, huh?" Elliot's face turned red again. "Okay, it's true, but it was almost sold, then you showed up." I got frustrated. "Honestly, you couldn't have sold them anyway. The house and car are in my name, all the papers are with my parents." Elliot stared, stunned. Did you really think you could sell a house or car without owning them? Of course they check who owns it and need the right documents. He stood there, opening and closing his mouth like a fish out of water. You pushed all the paperwork on me during our marriage, no wonder you don't get basic things like this. His eyes went wide. If you knew they couldn't be sold, why put locks on the house and car? He glared at me, eyes red. What's with that look? I don't deserve to be glared at just because you couldn't sell my property. You're really not cute at all. That's what I hated about you, acting like you can do everything yourself, so uppity, for a woman. I stayed calm. Oh, really? Then maybe you shouldn't have married me. Elliot snorted. It was obviously for your money. You worked at a big international company and made good money, that was the only reason I married you. His words were full of hate, trying to hurt me. But it didn't bother me. Come to think of it, I said, there was no reason for me to marry you either. Elliot's face twisted with anger. Don't act so high and mighty, I'm going to abandon you. My mistress is hundreds of times cuter than you, Elliot sneered, she even had my kid, aren't you frustrated? She's superior to you as a woman. I couldn't help but smile. Superior to me, huh? Elliot blinked, what? I reached into my bag and pulled out a photo. Is this your mistress? It was a picture of a pretty young woman, probably early 20s, Elliot's eyes darted nervously. You knew about Sharon? I smiled sweetly. You're not the only one who wanted a divorce, I've been gathering evidence for a while now. You're careless. Didn't you know the dashcam records interior footage, too? Elliot's face went pale. Once I figured out when you were meeting her from the dashcam data, it was easy. I hired a private investigator, found her fast. I was a bit surprised she was already pregnant, though. He stood there stunned, then, trying to recover, he stammered, don't do anything to her, she just had the baby, she's young, she doesn't have money, she didn't even know I was married. I put on an exaggerated sympathetic expression, lowering my eyebrows. Wow, defending her so much, must be true love, huh? Of course, she's pure, sweet, my soulmate, I'll protect her and our child, no matter what. Calmly, I pulled up a video on my phone, dashcam footage. Elliot was behind the wheel, Sharon, heavily pregnant, sat beside him. Thanks for the drive today, she cooed, and the food was so good. You're great at saying thank you, Elliot replied smugly, good girl, I want to marry you soon. Sharon pouted, really? Hurry up and divorce that old hag and be my husband, okay? The baby's almost here. I will, I'll handle everything while she's on her business trip overseas, then we can live happily, me, you, and our child, we'll live it up after selling her house and car. I stopped the video. She clearly knew you were married, didn't she? Elliot's face drained of color. And about her being pure. What are you trying to say? He snapped. I dropped a folder of photos on the ground, take a good look. His hands trembled as he flipped through them, Sharon arm in arm with various men, entering hotels, at prenatal checkups with a man who wasn't Elliot. She's been targeting streamers for a while now, I said, guess you started out as one of her fans, huh? Elliot collapsed to his knees, clutching Sharon's photo, eyes blank. You're planning to raise a child that might not even be yours, I added, voice thick with fake sympathy. No. Sharon said I was the only one. This can't be happening. I looked down at him, expression blank. Can I go now? We're strangers, right? Nothing left to talk about. He snapped out of it, screaming. If you hadn't shown me this, I could have stayed happy. How vindictive are you? You've ruined everything. I can't trust anything anymore. I sighed, that's not my problem. Do you even hear yourself? He stood, breathing hard. Whatever, even if I divorce you and break up with Sharon, I'm still happy. I have over 2 million followers. I make more money than you. Too bad, you're losing a famous streamer as a husband. Serves you right. I smiled sweetly. Why don't you check your phone? Huh? He pulled out his phone, his face went from smug to confused to horrified. What the, over 1,000 notifications, what's going on? I leaned in close. Naomi, you didn't, he whispered. I did. I gave him the brightest smile of the day. I posted everything online, that you're married, had a mistress, a secret child, how you mooched off me, lied, and cheated, the whole myth. Elliot let out a scream that echoed through the airport lobby. People turned and stared, his face crumbled. What have you done to me? My reputation, my followers, everything's ruined. I held up my phone playfully. Oh, by the way, this little reunion, it's live streamed, over 1 million people watching right now. Elliot lunged for my phone in a panic, but it was far too late. His cruel remarks and pathetic meltdown had already broadcast to the world. As he writhed on the airport floor in a full-blown tantrum, I calmly stepped past him and walked toward the taxi stand, my steps light. What followed was swift and brutal. Elliot, who had built his streaming persona as a single, charming man with a nice voice and endearing clumsiness, became internet infamy overnight. Female fans who once adored him felt betrayed learning he had been married all along. Male fans slammed him for dishonesty and disloyalty. The story had everything: infidelity, lies, a mistress, a love child that wasn't even his. The drama wrote itself. Even people who'd never heard of him found the scandal addictive. He became a cautionary tale, a trending topic, a punchline. He issued a carefully worded apology on social media, but it did nothing. The backlash refused to die. His subscriber count plummeted until he suspended his streaming activities altogether. Sometime later, as I was leaving work, I found Elliot waiting outside. Tears streaked his face as he begged, "Naomi, I can't stream anymore. I can't even go outside, help me, you're the only one I truly love, let's be husband and wife again." I didn't flinch. "If you keep stalking me, I'll call the police." That was the last time I saw him. Word eventually reached me that Sharon's child wasn't his. After a drawn-out myth, they broke up. I demanded compensation from both, without mercy. Elliot scraped together what little savings he had to pay his share. Sharon had to borrow from her parents. She tried to pressure the real father, another streamer, into marrying her, but he refused outright. Now she's back at her strict parents' house, raising the child alone. I hope the baby, at least, grows up well. Elliot, on the other hand, was left with nothing. After paying damages, he was broke. Companies cut ties, some demanded restitution for damage to their image. His respectable parents disowned him. Now he lives alone in a crumbling apartment, a broken man with no status, no money, no support. Even knowing that, I can't bring myself to feel the slightest sympathy. As for me, I returned to my single life, and to the career I've always loved. I couldn't stand living in the condo we shared, so I sold it. Luckily, the real estate market had climbed, and I made a nice profit. I also sold the car he and Sharon used to an acquaintance and bought a new one for myself. One day, when things finally quieted down, my sister smiled and said, "You did well, Naomi. Just think of him like a dog that bit you, move on and be happy, but no more choosing men just because they're cute, okay?" I laughed. She was right. This experience taught me a lot. I think I'm done with marriage. Devoting myself to work suits me far better. Now, I live in a high-rise apartment I bought on my own. It's a cozy single unit, and best of all, it allows pets. With life finally settled, I've decided to get a cat, something I've always wanted. From here on out, I'll live for myself. I'll protect what I've built, appreciate the peace I've earned, and move forward with quiet strength and positivity.